I'd like to welcome everyone. Department and Agency Subcommittee is now in session. It's Wednesday, March 22nd, here room 2, about 9:04. Lisa, call the roll, please.
Beck. Bricken.
Here.
Carringer.
Present.
Chisholm.
Here.
Haston.
Here.
Holsclaw.
Present.
Kiesling.
Here.
Littleton.
Here.
Chairman Holsclaw, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Does any member have any personal orders they'd like to? We got several ladies down here. Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to introduce you to my shadow of the day, Avery Fitzhugh. She's from Stewart County. Would you stand up and let us make you welcome, please? Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Lady Carringer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to introduce my intern that's shadowing me today. Would you care to stand up? Leah Pendarbis, and she is from Rutherford County. Thank you.
Looks like you might be her shadow.
She's in trouble, isn't she?
There is no shadow. Mr. Bricky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any of my Grundy County. Grundy County, well, I'll have about 40 wonderful folks from Grundy County. They're over at the Capitol just arriving right now, so you'll see them throughout the day. So when you see those Grundy County folks, please make them welcome throughout the day, all right?
Other members? Seeing none, we'll get into the calendar. Glad you can make it, Mr. Beck. Yeah. Yeah. You know, your outfit today doesn't look as good as it did yesterday. Yes. Let's wish Mr. Beck a happy birthday. Happy. So let's do a little housekeeping and we'll get on with the program. Item number 1, H376, off notice. Item number 5, HB446, off notice. And item number 9, HB638, off notice. So that puts us calendar in proper order. So that brings us to item number 2, which is the one and only handsome Representative Carr. You are recognized on HB 1373.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I do have that new amendment that we talked about. It's drafting code 6176.
Okay. And that makes the bill?
That makes the bill, yes, sir.
So let's get it in its proper posture. Let's vote on drafting code 6176. Those in favor say aye. Do we have a motion and second on the amendment? Second. All right, now let's wake up this morning. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Amendments on the bill, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation was brought to us by our business owners in my district in Sevier County, especially the restaurant owners. We're trying to hire eligible workers to serve those restaurants, and these J1 workers that come in, if they're 18 or over, then they can get a permit from the ABC that they can just carry the beverage from the bar to the table. And they've been going through the SAVE program, and a lot of time when they come back to the SAVE program, were not recognized because J1 workers and F1 workers come in a totally different realm. But anyway, we got this all worked out with ABC. They're going to still send them through SAVE. They're going to come back, but as long as their employer certifies that they are here and not that they are here legally, and the ABC is going to find a solution to streamline this process while it's still going to ensure the valid applicants receive these Tennessee licenses. This does not in any way apply to illegal immigrants or any more coming into the county. It does not. They are rejecting some applicants due to incorrect process, and this bill will allow a business owner to fix this problem by verifying the legal status of the applicant to get the permit. And with that, I stand for any questions.
So ABC's good with this? And
yes, sir. This is the last this is the last amendment that came from ABC. The one I had last week was from them, and they wanted to tweak it a little bit. That's the reason I'm bringing this back. This is the very language that come from us and ABC.
Okay. Members, any questions? Representative Beck, you are recognized.
I'm sorry, I'm out of order, Mr. Chairman, but I just realized my 911 director, Steve Martini, is here for Davidson County. We're glad to have you.
Glad to have you aboard.
He woke
Lady-
me up this morning early, I guess.
Chair Lady Carringer.
Well, I guess if my colleague can be out of order, then I can too, since it's his birthday, but I've got him beat on that. My 911 director, Brad Anders, is here from Knox County also.
Okay, seeing that everybody's out of order, is there any questions for? Question on the bill's been called, so we're voting on HB 1373. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Bill moves on to full,
Thank you, Chairman and committee.
which brings us to HB 1464 by Towns. That's very interesting. So we're rolling HB 1464 to the Hill. The next one is Mr. Towns, too, HB 1465. We're rolling HB 1465 to the Hill. You think it's Towns? I get ready to say, somebody needs some glasses. Which brings us to item number 6, HB 1230 by Representative Himmer. We have a motion and a second. Okay, you are properly before us. There's no. Go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm sorry I was a little late. You know, this time change has just it's just been really hard on me. I don't know if anybody else has had this problem as well, but I might have something that can help. While there are many things we might not agree on, many, if not most Americans find going back and forth to daylight savings time and standard time twice a year to be extremely disruptive. It can also be unhealthy and puts us at risk for heart attack, stroke, sleep loss, and car accidents. We can end the daylight saving times without waiting for the federal government to pass legislation, which has been gridlocked in D.C. The way we can do this is to do what Arizona and Hawaii have done and opt out of daylight savings time and go to year-round standard time. More than 20 medical, scientific, and civic organizations support eliminating daylight saving time and going to year-round standard time, including the AMA, American Academy of Sleep Medicine, and the National Safety Council. So while Tennessee did pass a daylight savings time bill in 2019, including I think every member of this committee except for the representative from Shelby County and representative from Knox County because they were not here. This bill, is proposed legislation can coexist with that 2019 bill. It does not require federal action. And that's because this is doing a regional approach that if the bill would allow the Commissioner of Transportation to certify in writing to the speakers of the Senate in the states of Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, and North Carolina to exempt themselves from this provision. Currently, Tennessee is going to be a leader in this. The state of Arkansas has also filed this similar legislation that's moving through. We have a sleep medicine physician and an expert on this subject here to speak today at the will of the committee, and she'll be able to provide a little more detail about the science behind and how these clock changes impact us in negative ways and why we should look at this legislation. And if the committee would be willing, I would love to have 2 witnesses speak on this bill, please.
Okay, we'll entertain that motion and we'll go out of session. And we've got Beth Mallow, is that correct?
That is. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Chairman Holsclaw, distinguished
And we
members.
got Matthew Horsnell too. So you can come up.
Oh, right. Okay, sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure of the
Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to sit down and you'll see a little.
Wonderful. And Matt will be our citizen witness after me. Thank you so much, Chairman.
Okay, and state your name and who you're with for the
Yes.
record.
I'm Dr. Beth Mallow. I'm a practicing neurologist. I direct the Vanderbilt Sleep Division, and my views expressed do not necessarily reflect those of my
Okay,
employer.
now when you start, we're going to give you 3 minutes to do your spiel.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm ready. Okay. Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, great. Chairman Holzclaw, distinguished members of this committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 1230. As you heard earlier this month, we participated again in the outdated ritual of changing our clocks back and forth. This actually contributes to sleep loss, fatigue, and an uptick in heart attacks, arrhythmias, strokes, medical errors, and traffic accidents. And this bill would put Tennessee on year-round standard time in coordination with neighboring states. It's the healthiest choice for Tennesseans. While many of us enjoy the extended light in the late afternoons and evenings provided by daylight saving time, it comes at a price to our health. And right now, daylight saving time robs us of the morning light in the spring and fall. Year-round daylight saving time would add even more darkness to mornings. And in morning light is optimized by standard time. Morning light is healthier because it aligns our brains and bodies with the outside world. And morning light wakes us up, boosts our mood, and promotes sleep. And we all know we need a good night's sleep to promote healthy weight, fight heart disease, diabetes, depression, boost our immune system, and improve productivity. Year-round daylight saving time would result in very dark mornings in the winter, especially in cities in the western part of our state that are in the eastern time zone, such as Johnson City, such as Knoxville, which would not see sunlight until close to 9 a.m. in January. And that's not healthy and has a direct negative impact on our sleep. Many schools start classes before 8 a.m., meaning sleep-deprived children and teens would be walking to school or driving to school in the dark, and the health, wellness, safety, and productivity of many of our essential workers, including our police, our firefighters, healthcare providers, as well as teachers and farmers would be affected. We tried daylight saving time in 1974 during the Middle East oil embargo, and many of us got to experience it in the winter. And it was very unpopular with Americans. It was repealed early. Let's not make that mistake again. In a recent poll, Americans expressed that they valued the time that was healthiest, most in line with our biology, promoted safety in the morning, and helped us sleep better. And opting out of daylight saving time and staying on standard time year-round is consistent with these values. It's the healthiest choice for Tennessee, and we can lead the way within our region toward ending the antiquated ritual of changing our clocks. Please vote to support House Bill 1230. Thank you.
Okay. You would like to testimony, state your name and.
Yeah, my name is Matthew Horsnell, and I am a proud lifelong Tennessean. I am also a person who lives with multiple sleep disorders. I was diagnosed at age 25 after a 13-year journey to diagnosis with a condition called narcolepsy with cataplexy. 7 years later, I was diagnosed with a condition called obstructive sleep apnea, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It impacts over 70 million Americans, which is about 1 in 5 of us. I'm here to talk today about how this bill will impact me. The ability to actually not go back and forth would have a profound positive impact on my life, and particularly going to permanent standard time. The best non-pharmaceutical intervention outside of naps for my condition is morning sunlight. In order for me to wake up, feel restored in any capacity, I need to have sunlight exposure. I can replicate some of that with a light box. That's not enough, though. In order for me to really feel my best, I'm going to need to get outside, enjoy the sunlight, enjoy the exposure. I'm also the proud dad of 3. I've got 2 that will actually be voting in the upcoming election, and a 10-year-old son who wants to vote, but, that's how things go. But it also impacts them. I see their struggle. Right now they're on spring break, but when they were going to school last week after this began, it was like pulling teeth to get them up and get them out of bed. And my heart kind of breaks to think how that would impact them moving forward, particularly my son, to wake up and potentially be going to school in the dark. You know, with in Chattanooga, sunlight would not be coming out until closer to 9 than it would be to 8. And I think that's really problematic when it comes to making sure that we're really empowering kids to excel in academics. You know, this is something that's very important to me. It's something that I take time out of my day, and I don't have a lot of extra bandwidth. And so I decided to come here today to speak, to represent the sleep community, to represent myself as a dad, and to represent the 1 in 5 Americans who do live with a sleep disorder, not just sleep apnea. So, you know, it's an honor. I really would hope that you guys would consider the actual science behind this. Dr. Mallow can explain that infinitely better than I can, but I can tell you from my own experience, I struggle with the back and forth. And particularly, I struggle with the spring forward. It's not just the loss of 1 hour of sleep. It's the fact that I wake up every day and feel like I haven't slept for 48 hours. That's a good day. And so this bill would actually benefit me and help me have a more natural progression without having to use more pharmaceuticals and use natural interventions like sunlight. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone on the committee giving me an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, members. We have questions. Representative Beck, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here today. So let me get this straight. Your proposal is, if we follow the science, we're better off not springing ahead in the spring.
Correct.
And the reason for that is basically the morning sunlight. Is that correct?
Correct.
What about in the afternoons when it's dark by 4? That's pretty depressing to me.
That is, well, let me just say that that's the biggest argument in favor of being on the daylight saving time, and it's all trade-offs. And as I said in my comments, I've been very impressed by Americans in some of these national polls where what they say they want most is morning light, safety for their commute, safety for their kids' commute. They want the light that aligns their brains with the outside world, and they want to get a good night's sleep. And all of those things are promoted by the permanent standard time. I wish we could have light. You know what I mean? I wish we could have light at both ends, but we can't. We have to choose. And that's the healthiest thing. The other thing, as Matt said, is we want to stop going back and forth. Everybody, I think, almost everybody wants to stop going back and forth. And we're gridlocked in Congress right now, in the U.S. Congress, because it requires an act of Congress to go to the permanent daylight saving time. While we can go to standard time without an act of Congress, we can do that as a state, we could do that as a region. And that's why we feel this is a more effective and easy way to end the clock change.
Representative Beck.
Can you explain to me more? You made a mention, Doctor, about 1974. Tell me what they did then and tell me what the results were.
Yes, so in 1974, because of the oil embargo in the Middle East, the idea was we were going to try to save energy by going to permanent daylight saving time, and it was under the Nixon administration. It did not save energy. It was 79% of Americans wanted to do it, and 1 or 2 months into it, only 42% of Americans liked the idea because their kids were going to school in the dark. They were going to school in the dark. Everybody was miserable. Florida, the state legislature in Florida tried to get out of it because there were some fatalities among school kids in Florida, and they were not allowed to do that because it was federal law. But then it was repealed early. It was supposed to go for 2 years. It was repealed several months later because everybody was really upset with it. And I think we have to remember history. I think we have to think back to what happened then, because as we said, it's going to be like close to 9 o'clock in Knoxville, Chattanooga, Johnson City, the east part of our state, if we were to go to the permanent daylight saving time.
Representative Beck.
What contiguous states to Tennessee have done this?
I'm sorry, what contiguous states?
Have opted out of daylight savings?
Well, right now, Arkansas has active legislation to do it. They're the only ones so far, although as you could see from the bill, we wouldn't want to do this alone. We don't want there to be confusion if people are going to Kentucky or whatever. So the idea is if we can do it and maybe Arkansas can do it this legislative season, we can work with the other states in our region to get them involved. There are people in all of the states who are very interested.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your time.
Representative Chisholm.
Thank you, Chairman. So the genesis of daylight saving time, 1974?
The genesis actually goes back to the World Wars.
Okay.
And in World War I, we adopted seasonal daylight saving time. And then after the war, people were kind of done with it. So we went back to just everybody kind of being on standard time, which aligns kind of with the light being up above your head at noon, you know, the more standard natural time. And then with World War II, we went to year-round daylight saving time. Again, the effort at that time was to save energy. That was a very different world then. It was mostly electrical energy and lighting of your house. Now there's evidence that daylight saving time may not actually save energy, may even cost energy, but those studies need to still be done. After World War II, everybody went back to standard time, but there was a lot of confusion because some places wanted to go on daylight, some wanted to go on standard. I believe some actually did do one or the other or both, and it was very confusing. So in 1966, Congress did the Uniform Time Act, which basically put everybody on daylight saving time for part of the year, but you were allowed to exempt as a state, and that still holds. So Arizona and Hawaii exempted and are on year-round standard time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the speaker, certainly, I know you've spoken to Congress, and I've certainly listened to you on 99.7, so you certainly are a great expert in this subject matter. And again, the argument about let's decide, and I think you make a great argument for standard time. I certainly just would rather it just stay one time period. And I know there's been some suggestions go to the half hour, split the difference and let it go. But the thing, and I guess I might go back when the sponsor comes up, and if our surrounding states, the biggest issue I have is the economic confusion that having a hybrid of time zones surrounding us would cause. And if we could pass legislation that says if all our neighboring states would decide whatever they, we'll go standard time as soon as they go standard time. And I think if we can get there, I'm certainly all in. So
Yes. I just want to clarify, that's the way the bill is written now. We would do nothing until the other states came on board.
Okay.
That's a very important point. I'm glad you made that. And both this is not overturning 2019, what you guys voted on then. Both pieces of legislation, as Representative Hemmer said, can coexist. So we can kind of hedge our bets and see. I don't see the federal government doing anything very soon. Marco Rubio has introduced this bill 5 times. There's a lot of feeling in Washington right now. There's too much. Indiana, it would be 9:07 in the morning before they saw daylight under permanent daylight time. So I just don't see this going anywhere soon on a national level.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go back in. Thank you for presentation. We'll go back in session. And once again, Representative Hemmer, you're recognized on 12:30. We have questions, comments? Yeah, that's a good question we might ask you. Why was Virginia not included in this list of states?
I think we didn't want to make it an all-encompassing region, but
Yeah.
we certainly could amend it.
Yeah, just I think it might have been an oversight. We're happy to include that in this if the committee would find that as a will. We did get a number of our contiguous states, and might have just been an oversight.
Yeah, they're definitely connected to us, so.
To you too, okay.
You know, I'm a proponent of the daylight savings because, you know, if you have kids, by the time you get off work and do all that, you get to go out and play with them a little bit versus it being dark, so, but any other comments, questions, committee? So we're ready. Question has been called. So we are voting on 1230. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Bill moves on to full.
Thank you. Members of the committee.
Which brings us to item number 7, HB 1072 by Representative Hurt Haston. Got a motion, second. Still sleeping on me, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In committee, what this bill does would establish a Veterans Honor Guard grant program. You know, basically, if anyone's ever, and I think most of us have been to Memorial Day ceremonies or Veterans Day ceremonies, or been to some funeral ceremonies for fallen soldiers, you'll see the Honor Guard there performing services, flag ceremonies, taps, flag presentations. And they do all of this usually off of just donations or their own money. I've been to a number of their meetings, and the last meeting I went to, which I think I relayed this to some of the people on the committee yesterday when I was talking to you, but the last meeting I was at, the first announcement by the treasurer at the meeting was if people don't start putting some donations in the coffee jar, there won't be coffee at the next meeting. And so they really do piece together a lot of good events off of basically fundraisers and fish fries and donations. And what this would do, and I'm going to tighten this a little bit. It says currently in the language about several different expenses. Really, we're trying to get this down to just some gas reimbursement. It's really hard to get an exact number right now of the Veterans Honor Guards that are out there. It's estimated to be somewhere maybe in the neighborhood of maybe 75 statewide. I think a good, ballpark estimate would be to put maybe $75,000 in the grant and then up to $1,000 gas reimbursement, which I think is pretty fair and not a substantial amount of money when it comes to grants that we oftentimes deal with. Last thing I'll just say is that the fiscal note currently does have $125,000 on it for hiring somebody to handle the grant program. I am hoping that we, once we tighten it up a little bit and it's just a $75,000 grant that's out there, I'm hoping that maybe we can, have fiscal look at it and see if it can be done by existing personnel. I do think in 2019, we passed a bill for the $30 million SOR grant program. And in that $30 million grant, there was no new position added for that one. So I'm hoping that maybe we can look at some ways to circumvent that if possible. But with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Committee members? Chairman Keesley, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. And I want to commend Chairman Haston for this. This is I commend him because we should have taken care of this a long time ago. So, Chairman, thank you for doing that, and Chairman, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Other questions? Seeing none, we are voting on HB 1072. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? You're moving on to full, no letter needed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Which brings us to item number 8, HB 579 by Representative Bricken. You got a motion and a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a 911 bill, and again, I appreciate y'all's kind of indulging me for a little bit of a conversation about 911. You might have realized it's a little bit of my focus as a legislator up here. Of course, the 911 operation impacts every citizen of Tennessee. And we want reliable 911 service, and we have reliable 911 service. My goal, certainly, is to try to, what I call, be certain that every Tennessean gets the best 911 service at the least cost. And hopefully everyone would concur that that's what y'all would want. This bill specifically does two things. One, easy lifting is that all 911 dispatchers would be considered in it's kind of first responders and for benefits, and it's unlikely ever were killed or injured in the line of service, they would be treated like any other first responders. So that's the first part of the bill. The second part of the bill is a little bit more complicated, but it just basically directs the Emergency Communications Board, and that's under the Department of Commerce, kind of affiliated with the Department of Commerce. I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit. The Department of Commerce kind of tries to ignore them. But anyway, it basically just directs that communications board that says all 911 calls will be, if you make a 911 call for an emergency purpose, that call will be directly dispatched to the police department, sheriff's department, to someone without being transferred to another department where those seconds and minutes make all the difference. For non-emergency calls, those could be handled with what's called attended transfer. And the point is, there's 104 emergency communication districts in the state, okay? Of those, I'm going to roughly only 14 out of the 100, and those don't do direct dispatch. Every county member that's here, your counties, I've surveyed them, I got the survey here, does direct dispatch, with possibly the only exception is to the volunteer fire departments in Chairman Holtzclaw's district. So, but as far as emergency transfers, they're handled appropriately. So we got only a couple, 14, and I could cite you those particular counties that don't do direct dispatch for emergency services. And all this legislation would do would say to the communications board is get those people in line with best practices. And they should. But the 911 community doesn't want anybody playing in their sandbox. So sadly, the communication board says, that's a local decision, let them be it. And I just disagree with that. I said, if they aren't going to take the effort to make the best practices for Tennesseans, then we as legislators should do it. So that's what this bill would do. And again, it's weedy. The 911 folks, I've run this before. Everyone will get contacted and says, we're going to close ranks. We don't want anybody telling us what to do. That's okay, but hopefully y'all can see that it's wrong. It's just flat wrong. And anyway, this legislation, I'm going to take it off notice after I vent a little bit.
I think we might have to call 911 for you.
So, but again, this is important. You pay $1.50 out of every phone number you have. That's roughly $125 million that most citizens think that's the cost of 911. That's only 1/3 of the cost. The rest of the cost comes out of local property taxes that everyone's paying. So it's a $300 to $400 million a year operation in Tennessee. And so it's important. We're spending serious dollars. We should have the best service. Eventually, if I stay up here long enough, because I think the burden should come off property taxes. I don't care if the $1.50 goes to $2.50 to $3, and we pay for 911 service out of our phone system and takes the full burden off local government. But again, that is a tough one. That will be another horse that I'll have to get on down the road. But anyway, again, I appreciate my 911 folks. They do a marvelous job. Your counties are doing a great job. Again, we got a couple of outliers that I wish y'all would just get in line. And again, that's my statement, Chairman, and I appreciate you giving me the time, and I'll take this bill off notice.
Okay. We appreciate your passion for this. HB 579 is off notice, which brings us back to the calendar of item number 3, HB 1464 by Towns. And we 911 TM and
Mr. Chair, can we roll this first calendar next year?
what we'll do is just take them off notes, and that way he can put them on when he wants to.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. So he did not have a assistant. His assistant retired. So I hate to make excuses for him, but I think that's what happened.
Why would you not assist him?
I try, Your Honor.
Item number 3, HB 1464 is off notice. And item number 4, 1465 is off notice. And believe it or not, that completes our calendar. Well, not yet. We need to thank the staff of this committee that keeps it running and in proper form. So, Elise Sweeney, Caitlin Bowling, Nathan Witt, Tyler Muntz, Reuben Sanders, Matt Mundy, Josh Houston, and Mrs. Falkenbach have done a phenomenal job. So please give him. Without these guys, it wouldn't be near the success that it is. And now we'll entertain that motion. Okay. You are recognized, Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you for starting our day on Tuesday mornings with laughs and good feelings, and it really helps the day. When we don't have that, I miss it.
Well,
so we really appreciate you and the way you conduct the meeting, but we do really appreciate the laughs that you help us have.
Well, this. As you well know, it can be very stressful here. So if you can just take a minute to smile, sometimes it relieves that stress factor. Yeah. But Representative Carringer, Minnie Mouse or whatever.
Thank you, Chairman. I love this committee, and it is, my colleague said, it is always a joy to come in here and be able to laugh and realize we all make mistakes, but we're all here for the real, true reason, and that is to serve the people in the state of Tennessee the best that we can. However, she said Tuesday morning. I don't think it's Wednesday. Is it Wednesday morning or Tuesday?
She stays a little confused.
I don't know what.
That's the reason that she shows up half the time.
But show up late when I figure out what day it is.
But
and it's been a joy to have her on this committee this year, because last year I didn't have her on this committee. So it's been a joy to have her and all of you all. And I do thank you for what you do and for your great assistance up here, because none of us could do any of it without any of them.
We appreciate the comments, and, we can have fun and still do business in the right way. So I love this committee. I've got great members. To me, it's the best committee here. So with having said that, the committee is now closed due to the subject to call the chair.